जय जय सुरनायक जन सुखदायक प्रणतपाल भगवंता गोद्विज हितकारी जय सुरारी सिंधुसुता प्रियकंता पालन सुरधरनी अद्भुत करनी मरम न जानई कोई जो सहज कृपाला दीन दयाला करऊ अनुग्रह सोई करऊ अनुग्रह सोई। जय जय अविनाशी सब घटवासी व्यापक परमानंदा अभिगत गोतीतम चरित पुनीतम माया रहित मुकुंदा जेहि लागी बिरागी अति अनुरागी विगत मोह मुनि वृंदा निसि बासर ध्यावहि गुण गण गावहि जयति सच्चिदानंदा जयति सच्चिदानंदा। जेहि सृष्टि उपाई त्रिविध बनाई संग सहाय न दूजा सो करऊ अघारी चिंता हमारी जानिय भगति न पूजा जो भव भय भंजन मुनि मन रंजन गंजन विपति बरु था मन बच क्रम बानी छाड़ी सयानी सरन सकल सुरजू था सरन सकल सुरजू था। सारद श्रुति शेषा ऋषय अशेषा जा कहूँ कोई न जाना जेहि दीन पियारे वेद पुकारे द्रवउ सो श्री भगवाना भव बारिधि मंदर सब विधि सुंदर गुण मंदिर सुख पुंजा मुनि सिद्ध सकल सुर परम भयातुर नमत नाथ पद कंजा नमत नाथ पद कंजा। जय जय अविनाशी सब घटवासी व्यापक परमानंदा अभिगत गोतीतम चरित पुनीतम माया रहित मुकुंदा जेहि लागी बिरागी अति अनुरागी विगत मोह मुनि वृंदा निसि बासर ध्यावहि गुण गण गावहि जयति सच्चिदानंदा जयति सच्चिदानंदा।
how to start.
So, Father, it's becoming a lot more evident that um, we are the heart. In other words, I think this sense of separation is starting to somewhat dissolve, and it's just feeling like we are the heart, and they can't. There's not two. There's the heart, and then there's sensations in the heart. That's sort of how it's sort of starting to feel. And I just actually just wanted to also just report on something which I heard this morning, which is I was listening to a recording of Muji Baba reading from a text that Bhagwan had written called the Parayana. And he says, somehow in that, for the first time, I heard something very powerful, which I had not heard to that extreme, where he was saying that if you worship the Lord, um, if you know that you're not the body, and then you worship the Lord, feeling that there's a difference between you and Him, actually, he said very clearly, you will not attain, kind of dissolution and self-realization. So, I mean, for the first time, I'd sort of heard of. I mean, it was very. I mean, I was quite surprised at how prescriptive this was. That if you're doing devotion and you're praying to the Lord as a separate entity, and said, it was actually kind of like seemed like a strict upadesa not to do so. I mean, I just surfacing it. I mean, what I heard, and because it surprised me, I thought that all paths were all good, equally good, and it was good enough to just sort of say that, okay, I'm the person and I'm praying to the Lord, rather than having to kind of stay in the as the heart and dissolve the sense of personhood as a falsehood. So just wanted to lay that at your feet and get your feedback on what we should be aspiring for in our meditations.
So let's suppose that this framing is true. Let's suppose that this framing is true, which is that if there is a sense of distinction felt between the Lord and myself, then in a way there's no point even praying to Him. Let's suppose it's true like that. Then how would anyone ever start? Then the path of spirituality would be completely closed for everyone. Because nobody starts off feeling truly one with God. You don't start off having let go of the attachment to this body mind and the idea that I am this person whose center is this body mind. So I feel like something may have got lost in translation, or maybe because we are at a particular place, then that framing seems dominant in terms of how we hear what is being said. But I want to just tell everyone that the point is to turn towards God. No preconditions are needed. You don't have to have achieved a sense of non-duality already to worship. In fact, to worship is to work on our sense of separation. You see? And if there is a prerequisite like you cannot worship God unless you know that you are completely one with Him, then who is to worship God? Who can worship God then? I can't worship God. No, none of us in this room can worship God. And in fact, nobody that ever met could worship God. Because nobody has got rid of that me completely. So that is the first aspect. The second aspect is the idea of attaining self-realization. So I would say that let's get rid of this idea instead. Because we know that there is nobody who will attain self-realization. When there is self-realization, there is nobody. So rather than keeping the focus on what is needed for me to attain self-realization, let's only keep our focus on how can I love God more and how can I recognize the truth about myself more and more. What that leads to is none of our business. So I, for one, don't want to talk about so much the attainment of self-realization, because for many of us then that itself becomes the stumbling block to that which we are trying to attain. So, and then that becomes again like the dog chasing his tail. I want to get self-realization, and to get self-realization I want to be empty of myself. But the idea that I want self-realization is the idea that keeps me as myself. So I want self-realization, I have to be empty of this I. But I want self-realization, but I want to be empty of this I. So then we can never really, then we get into that trap of a conceptual self-realization that now I understand that I am one with God, but our life doesn't become a living, breathing example of that oneness. It doesn't really translate into that lived love, lived compassion, lived kindness. And we remain like this on the spiritual treadmill, every day thinking we are making a lot of progress because we understood something new. So don't try to attain self-realization, just stay with the truth. There is nothing to attain in spirituality. Do we want to love our children more because we'll attain something out of it? Do we want to have a deeper relationship with them, or children, parents, partner, whoever? Is it a question of getting something out of it? Is it? So the idea of getting will only contaminate the relationship. And put yourself in a getting mode. Put yourself in a getting mode and see whether you can really come face to face with the truth, or whether you can love deeply in your heart when you are in getting mode. How are we in getting mode? Wanting. You see? So we are grasping like this. We can never really meet the Atma within. We can never meet his presence inside us because we remain in that getting mode. You see, but the problem with the getting mode is that it promises us the delusion, the illusion of progress. Got this, then I got this, now I got this. Nobody gets God in that way. All we ever get is a glorified sense of me. So let go of the goal of attaining anything at all. You have this moment where you can deeply love your heart, deeply love God as yourself, as His holy feet, in whatever way you want to. Never fall for the trap, no matter how credible it may seem, that one path is better than the other. So then we are saying that Bulle Shah ji and Farid ji and Nanak ji and Tukaram ji and Namdev ji, they were lower level sages. Kabir ji, well, Kabir ji you could say was very much a Jnani and a Bhakta at the same time. In fact, all of them were, but you get a sense of what I'm saying? That the idea is to get over ourselves, whichever way we can get over ourselves. मैं को भूलकर भगवान को याद रखना है बस. Whether you say Bhagwan is God, truth, love, peace. And that is why this Achinta Bheda Bheda is very pristine, because Do you see that you are completely one with God? It is Abheda. But do you see that you now recognize that you are completely one with God and it has always been this way? That is Bheda. Because you now recognize, and the one who is resting in this new recognition, that will always have an element of the meanness, the tanmatra of the ego. And that one would love nothing more than to rest in the notion that it doesn't exist. Just in the notion. So in the notion that I don't exist, I can keep myself alive. Who is the I that doesn't exist? Why do I need to say I don't exist? If there is nobody like that, then who is saying I don't exist? Huh? It's like saying I am not the doer. Then you are not that I am. So that one who wants to make the claim that I don't exist is the one that is the minutest ego that still perpetuates in the human condition. And if we let it run helter-skelter, then we will fall only into spiritual pride. I don't know if the words are correct. Maybe better ones will come. But from experience, most of you will get a sense of what I'm saying also. Is it? So remember first few satsang that you ever came to Advaita, first few satsangs on YouTube or something like that. In the first satsang you feel excited. There is no me. There never was. I never existed. Huh? Then your partner fights with you. Huh? What happens? You see? And you try to convince them also, but you don't exist and I don't exist. But it's no longer fun. You see? So both ends of the spectrum we have to accept and straddle. To get in denial of either side will only lead to trouble. That's why I said we can meet Hanumanji in both ways. See? The framing that is already attractive to us, that we've delved into already a lot, that we are already very familiar with. But we have to get into new ground as well. We have a broader capacity than our intellect does. So the discipleship of the Atma is like this. It is bigger than your intellect. The more you can leave it behind, and it's scary. Because we've been in satsang 12 years, some of us have been in satsang 12 years, and if somebody says, what have you understood? And if you don't have an answer, it feels like we are failing a class or something. You see, but this kind of classroom is very different. The more you grow, the less you will be able to speak about it. Because the Atma is teaching you from inside. So if somebody says to me that, Ananta, you will never attain self-realization because you still worship God as if He is greater than you, that you are nothing but a foolish beggar and He is the king of this universe, then I don't want that self-realization. Because I know the one I meet in my heart is much bigger than I will ever be. And at the same time, I know fully well that I am completely the same, the one with Him. You cannot understand this thing. But I'm happy to love God, even if that means that I never reach enlightenment or freedom or any of the promises of spirituality. I don't want the promise of spirituality, I want only spirit. I don't want the benefits of it. And what happens with the idea of nirvana, moksha, enlightenment, self-realization? The ideas, if taken conceptually, are terrible ideas. These ideas can cause much more trouble than not having them if they are just in the mind. But in the heart, you know that this freedom has a completely different meaning from what we can fathom intellectually. What is our idea of freedom, enlightenment? That I'm always in bliss. I never identify as the body mind. What are the other ideas? That everybody will recognize my light, they will fall at my feet, they will see who I am. You see? One boy had this story that he sat in Satsang and Rishikesh with Guruji. So at the end of Satsang, he felt like that Satsang, he really got it. He got the point. Most of you heard this story. So he was just ready for life after getting it. You see? So Satsang ended and he went out of the Satsang hall, and this Western lady, they were Indian boy, very sweet boy. So this Western lady started walking towards him, with great intention. So he said to himself, or the mind said to him, "Oh, is it starting to happen now? Can they see it? Are they all going to come to me now?" You see? So she came to him and she said, "Do you know where the auto rickshaw stand is?" You see? So, and I'm glad that that happened in that way. Because very quickly, you see what happened. The insight could have been completely true, but what quickly gets built up after that is that persona of enlightened one. Now, suppose if the mind really tricked him or Maya really had it out for him, then suppose that Western lady said, "I see something in you. You see? Can you tell me something? I see something in you." You see? You know where that trajectory could have taken that sweet boy. So you have to be very careful of the ideas. Any idea that makes us special, just throw it away. There is nothing special about me, there is nothing special about you.
much easier to say. Certain ways, but
Yeah.
it's
It's very difficult. That's what I feel like our communication this time has been mostly around the fact that this is a lifelong, very, very rare and very, very difficult project. Hasn't it? See? And that to hear that seems also very difficult. But once you accept it, you see, then it'll still be difficult.
always like knowing something is half the battle. This is not true.
In this case, it's all the battle lost. Isn't it? So, it is, see, the language is so limited that the texture of knowing has different varieties. We think that what we know in the mind is what we know. What we judge in the intellect is what we know. But you cannot know anything valuable there. Tell me something good that you know in the head. Maybe with the exception of the name of God, there is nothing. Even when we say love in the head, oh, I love you, means I want something from you. That is not love. You see? So, true knowledge, where do you know unconditional love? Where do you know peace? Where do you know true joy? And the more you know in your head, the more difficult it will seem to access your heart where you truly know. So, really, the question I'm realizing is quite straightforward. Do you want to work on yourself or do you want God to work on you?
Work on ourselves or you?
Huh?
We want to work on ourselves.
Ourselves, okay. So, suppose you had the option, हाँ? एक ऑप्शन ये है कि मैं खुद पे काम करूँगा, एंड सेकेंड ऑप्शन इज यहाँ कृष्णा जी बैठे हैं, भगवान कृष्णा बैठे हैं, वो आप पे काम कर सकते हैं. फिर आप क्या पिक कर रहे हो? पर दोनों नहीं हो सकते एक साथ में.
No, correcting ourselves is necessary. Like God, how He will correct? He is told everything. Everything is told, talked about by Him. He is told all the way. He is given all the gyan to people. We only can grasp it. We should be open to grasp it. If we are not open to grasp it, then how much He will do for you also? He will not be able. Then He will also.
But has He told you that मैंने आपको सब बता दिया है, now you have to do? Did He come and tell you?
No, like
Wait. So, suppose I'm a mad person, okay? So, I am telling you a mad idea. See how much you want to listen to this mad person. It's completely up to you. So, I am telling you that God wants to hold our hand, and every step of the way He wants to guide us. Every step of the way. He has never told me once, whatever I had to tell you, I have told you. Now it is your job. You see? He has in fact told me that will become my ego. That will become my pride. He has told me that you must remain like a little boy in my arms so that then I can guide you moment to moment. So Nanak ji said, after everybody asked him, okay, you're saying by sitting in meditation it will not happen, by getting the most pleasure it will not happen, by applying our intellect and knowing so much it will not happen, then how will it happen? They asked Nanak Ji, no? वहाँ ऊपर लगाया हुआ है. So, what did he say? He said, Hukum rajai chalna nanak likhya naal. Which means that we must remain in the will of God. Hukum actually is the command of God. And that is my highest teaching, he said. Now this hukum, has he said that he will not guide us this moment? You see? So what has happened is that in the world, it can feel like Ishwar Prapti or Atma Darshan is such a rare thing. So we feel that, okay, now we have to rely only on what we think has been said. See? Can anyone in this room, including me, tell me what is said in the Bhagavad Gita? Huh? Who can say? Tell me what is said in the Bhagavad Gita. Everything is said. तो क्या करोगे? What will you do this moment? Somebody is angry with you on the phone. Huh? Then Bhagavad Gita is saying that you attack the enemies, do your duty, love everyone, be in the truth. Everything is said, no? So what will you do? You see, so when people say Gita Sar, no? There is no such thing as Gita Sar. Because everything is there. In every scripture. You take Ramayana, you take Mahabharata, you will do the Ramcharitmanas. Tulsidas ji has said everything. You see? So when it comes to application moment to moment, unless we are guided by the Atma in this moment, unless his presence is alive for us in this moment, you see, our mental spirituality or our conceptual idea of what we think spirituality is doesn't actually come to any use. So, to come to God's presence and to live in the light of the Atma, to come to that is the most important thing. Otherwise, the Pandits would have led the most free life. उनको सब पता है, संस्कृत में पता है. What happened? And that arrogance is what Tulsidas ji also broke. Because everybody said, you are not a real Pandit because you don't even talk in Sanskrit. You only speaking Navadi and this also. Not even, pure language, is just a dialect. He said, can I not love God in the language that I want? And can I not bring it to the people in a way that they can understand instead of keeping this elitism of conceptual knowledge? You see? So it is the ones who are spiritually proud who want to make God only available to those with those barriers. But God is for everyone to love, but really love. You see? Does that mean that I'm saying don't read the scriptures? No, not at all. I'm saying that many times the voice of God can seem like I can't access it inside. So then when we read the scriptures, then we can hear the word of God in that way. We can hear it. But when we rely on it as past knowledge, you see, and when we get into the idea that I can do this myself, that is when the trouble comes. Because God has never told me, and tell me if He has told you that I am done with my job, now it is up to you. Huh? Has He told anyone? Never told anyone. So all the greatest sages, Hanuman Poddar ji, I don't know anything. He translated so many scriptures, all this hundreds of books he edited. He said, I don't know anything. He tells me. Can we get that kind of relationship with God? For most of the world, it seems like this is not possible. It's not possible. But it is possible. Suppose it was possible, it would be beautiful, no? That he is always with me. Whichever aspect of him appeals to me the most, whether it is Ram, whether it is Krishna, whether it is Jesus, whether it is Allah, that one is always with me. I can love him with all my heart. I can offer my heart to him every moment. And he can guide me, he can love me, he can take care of everything in my life. Is it just a fantastical, beautiful idea of a mad person? Or is it really a possibility? Is it? For most of the world, this kind of talk is stupidity. Are you willing to be stupid with me? It's not easy. That's why I was telling him also. It's not easy because all of Maya will attack you. Your own mind will attack you first, and then everybody around you will attack you. Has anybody come to God's presence and said, no, now I know him, now I don't need to live with him, I don't need to stay with him, I don't need to love him? Nobody. They fall more and more in love. So what is the difference between a satsang and a discourse or a class? Huh? Who is speaking could be one way to look at it. But in a discourse, we use our intellect to try and understand. In satsang, we try to come into the sangat of the sat. सत के संग में आने का attempt है ना. The attempt is to come to the company of the truth. And the truth is Satyam Shivam Sundaram is the same thing, isn't it? So the truth is to come to God. So can we come to Satsang, which means to come to the company of God? And how can we come to the company of God? God's presence is called the Atma. And where is the Atma? Where is the Atma? Not inside the body, but inside. Isn't it? That is why it is said, Antarmukhi Sada Sukhi. If inside me was only flesh and blood and ideas and brain, then why would the turning inwards make me happy, make me peaceful? How is the promise that inward facing I am always at peace, always content? Were the sages lying about it? They were not lying about it. So, when it is said Antarmukhi Sada Sukhi, it is because he lives there. He lives there. Hmm? So, what is Maya's job? To convince us that he does not live there. That is the number one job. So, Kabirji said, Maya Mahatagni. Why is it a Mahatagni? You are a Hindi teacher. Can you tell us what is Mahatagni?
She is cheating always.
Yes, biggest con artist, biggest cheater. No? How is she cheating us? What could be the biggest scam that can happen to us? Huh? Let's see that way. If somebody took all my money away, then would that be the biggest scam that can happen to me? If somebody gave me a very fatal disease, would that be the biggest scam? No, not even that. If somebody took all my possessions, all my family, everything, would that be the biggest scam? No. The biggest scam is if somebody took away God from me. And this Mahatagini tries to do that. Sometimes even hiding Bhaktan ki bhakti mein बैठी. What a beautiful line. Bhaktan ki bhakti mein बैठी. Even in the devotion of the devotee it can hide. That I have become such a big devotee. Look at all these people. I am just sitting in devotion of God all day. You see? So there Maya comes. You see? So Anandamayi Ma said, Maya is मैं आया. जब ये मैं आया, when me comes, then we are stuck in Maya. You see? So in the devotion of the devotee also this me can come. You see? So that is why everywhere it can hide. So we have to be careful of this Maya. This मैं आया. This me coming. You see? Because Rahima Gali hai Sakri. Why is it a narrow lane? Why is the lane too narrow? When there is me, there is no God. When there is God, there is no me. And whatever we do, no matter how many dips in the holy river we take, what pilgrimages we do, what holy mountains we walk around, no matter what we do, if our attempt wholeheartedly is not to get rid of the me from my heart, then we cannot be with God. Do whatever you want. Because this Maya is the Mahatagni, he will come everywhere. Does that mean it's a bad thing to go to these places? No, it isn't. It's very beautiful, but remember that it is beautiful If our project is to be empty of this me, but if our project is to elevate this me, is to grow, is to attain something, then it doesn't matter. It may only make it worse. So the question was, I forgot what the question. The question was that if only one was possible, I could work on myself, or God could work on me.
So experience only you can't do.
Maybe the only work on myself that I can do is to allow God to work on me. But first we have to accept that it is possible that when we leave the lane empty for Him, then He can work on our heart. Ma Teresa of Avila said such a beautiful thing, it stunned me. And when I make myself available to Him, then He works on my heart. He works on our heart. And it's so true because when we look back at our lives, all that is beautiful and full of love and joy and peace in our heart, He has only put. And all the rag, dvesh, klesh, everything we have put in our head. So between the head and heart, who is going to win in your life? Kabir ji said, "Avsar bar bar nahi aave." When the opportunity does not come again and again. Was he lying, exaggerating? Because the mind will say, God will not be that unkind. How can He be that unkind? Then Kabirji must be lying. So we make very convenient spiritual excuses for ourselves. And a sage like Kabirji has told us that the opportunity does not come again and again. We pretend to be blind to it. No, he didn't say. Never happened. And that is the childish tendency that we should let go of. I shared this story that my daughter, when she was just maybe 2 or 3, maybe younger, she got a cut on her foot. So I went to where she was, and I could see their footsteps, which are like red in color. Huh? So I'm running after her, saying, Ria, Ria, show me what has happened, show me what has happened. And she's just like, it is not blood, it is tomato. Yeah, at that age, she didn't want to deal with the pain of having that thing. Maybe it scared her a lot to see her own footstep like that. So she just said, it is not blood, it is tomato. She is not showing me, she is running from me, saying, it's not blood, it's tomato. You see, and there's no tomato inside. So we should not spend our life in this kind of denial. It is possible for you to live a life in God's light. It is possible for you to let Him heal your heart, fill your heart with love and kindness, to give you insights which you can never even imagine. He can do all of that. All you have to do is have the intention at least to be free of this me. We can only have the intention. You see, moment to moment, we can offer this moment to God. Who does your heart belong to this moment? Who are you for? In this moment, who are you for? And because in our way of life, it has become so natural that every moment I am for me. Even God is for me. You see? That we are learning how to surrender ourselves by saying that my heart belongs to you, God. मैं आपका हूँ भगवान. And do you think that method is super important at that point? That God will be upset at the end of it because I said Ram, 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 but I should have said Rama, Rama, Rama. Or I was calling God as Jesus, Allah, when I should have been saying Christ and Bhagwan. This pettiness is reserved only for humans. It is not God to be like that. So we must be free from this kind of nonsense. If God is called God, He is called Bhagwan, He is called Allah, He is called Christ. Just because the language is different, the mode of communication is different, do you feel like God will not hear us and He will not know that we are calling Him? The great sage Valmiki became Valmiki because he said Mara, 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 Mara. Another one became a great sage because he said he mistook the prayer and he prayed instead of Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me, he prayed, Lord Jesus Christ, don't have mercy on me. It is not about any of that. It is who is this moment for? Who does this moment belong to? Who do you belong to in this moment? आप अपने हो कि भगवान के? It's not blood, it's only tomato. And this me is very devious. So you have to develop your nose to smell the narrative when it only smells like it is about God but is actually about me. So when my plate is empty of me, then God can eat of that plate. What can be higher than that? One child came to Satsang one time and she made this report to a friend. It really stuck with me. So she said, "Oh, God I found many years ago. And I came to Satsang expecting that Ananta will tell me something higher. Higher than being with God? This is Maya. That higher and lower is by whose design? If something could be higher, if something could be lower, by whose design would it be? So meet the source of all of this and stay with it without grasping at spiritual ideas. And be careful of the idea of it being a one-time event. Amar Chitrakatha, very good books for children, very nice. Every child should read them. But one mistake they do is that they always present it in this way that this one prayed and prayed and prayed, and God came and said, "I'm happy with your prayer, ask me what you want, tathastu, I'm gone." That is not it. You have to meet God and then at all costs, at any cost, don't leave Him. He will not say tathastu and go. You will say thank you and go. This is Maya. What would it be if not Maya when we, sitting in prayer, sitting in inquiry, we come to God's presence and then we say, okay, no, now I have to go, I have important things to do. That is Maya. God has never told us, now I have to go, I have important things to do. Huh? We keep telling Him every day. Now I have to go, I have important things to do. My work is waiting, my children are waiting, everybody is waiting, but I will keep you waiting. Does that mean that we must become passive and then drop all work, all responsibility, all children? That is my number one objection. Every time I've said this, 12 years, every time first is this. No, stay with God and let the movement happen from there. Let Him move you. He is moving you anyway. Live in that recognition. I'm ranting after many days. Not being very contemplative today. We'll come back to that soon. What makes us so busy for God? Let's become busy with God for the world. Somebody wants to sit and gossip with us for 1 hour. Say to them, no, actually I'm busy with God. Don't say to God, sorry, I have this important phone call. Nothing important is happening. Just these small things. They can seem like sacrifices. Strangely, it can seem like a sacrifice. So sacrifice that entertainment, that lila, that maya. That is Shreya and Priya. What is the difference between Shreya and Priya? Shreya is short-term pain, but long-term happiness. Priya is short-term pleasure, long-term misery. So that pinch which you feel, oh, I could have entertained myself. Instead, I'm sitting and contemplating, I'm sitting and praying. That pinch will be short-term, but the joy of being in God's presence is blessing us and those around us in ways that we can never understand. The biggest calamities are on our head, but through His presence, through His blessings, they can be. And we don't want to make it for selfish reason, but His grace heals everything. So one resolution is coming strongly here. It's been a little week since it first came, but it's being reinforced here, is that I don't want to talk about myself. And a lot of these days goes on WhatsApp messaging and other forms of communication. So I will remember to make it about Him as much as I can. Because in that moment we can forget Him. You see? Oh, this happened, then this happened to me, and then that happened to me. And for those moments we forget God. If we say, Ramji is here, and by the way, while he's here, then this has been happening, which is unimportant. But since you ask, if he was pratyaksh in front of you, would that not be pratyaksh? Apparently in front of you, like visibly in front of you, then would that not be how we convey our life? So just because he is invisible, but recognized through the Sadguru's eyes, through our heart eyes, does that mean we can just live as if he doesn't exist? That is the very purpose of Maya, to make it seem like I exist as somebody, but he doesn't exist. Isn't it? Yeah. I exist as somebody, मैं हूँ, पर वो नहीं. I am, but he is not. But my very I amness is him. My very existence is him. Literally, not even poetically. Like we may say in a human relationship romantically that my very existence is you, my beloved. At least for the first few weeks. Then all gone. But in this case, this I am is God's presence. So when we say my very existence is you, it is the most literal thing that we can say. Because without the Atma, we are nothing. Most of us feel like we are just prana, and at least in India, we feel like we are prana, and then we are flesh, and then we are blood, and all of these things. You see? So then we feel like, okay, some pranayama and some worldly exercise, and that's about it. And not atmayama. What is the source of prana? So we come to satsang to do atmayama. It is the absurdest satsang I've ever shared. Because why? It feels too far-fetched. Can we get God like that? Is it possible? Can we find Him? And can we stay with Him? Can we love Him more and more every moment? Can we offer ourselves more and more to Him? Is it a possibility in our life? As difficult as it may seem. What is plan B? Tell me better plan B. Then I'll let you off the hook. What is the other plan? So one plan I have told you. Stay with God, love Him more and more, allow Him feel His love for you, be guided only by Him moment to moment, live in love, servitude and true insight. That is plan A. What is alternative plan? What most of the world is living, that is plan B. And if you break it down into smaller pieces, then it is, let's say, atheist and non-atheist, or religious. So religious people, most of them have this plan that there is a God, but I have important things to do. And when I'm close to the end of my life, I'll remember Him and He'll take care of me. And nobody ever feels like they're coming to the end of their life. So their whole life goes without remembering Him. Mostly. That is the state of the religious. And once a year, Diwali, Holi, we'll pray. And even that prayer, we will not leave it without selfishness. We will say, give me this, give me money, give me better this thing, give me all that. So that is not any way to build a relationship with God. And the atheist like I was, say, it's all nonsense. I am this body and I will die. So either we can get into a nihilistic sort of life, which is that it's all meaningless, or we can say, like Kamo and others, that it's all meaningless. Actually, but I will try to make some meaning out of it for myself because I have to die anyway. So I will try to either make meaning, which is that I will create my own value parameters and say if I'm achieving those value parameters, then I'm leading a meaningful life, and then I die. And the nihilists will say that that's all pointless, I'm going to die anyway, so what's the point? So they die before dying, dead. So let's categorize all of that as plan B. What do we want to do? Huh? And many of the religious ones have this idea कि balance में करेंगे, which is that we will do it in the right balance, fine balance. I have a physical life, I have an emotional life, I have a mental life, I have a monetary life, and I have a spiritual life. So I will balance it out properly and have this perfect blend. Have you seen their life? That what piece of that pie chart has the smallest piece left by the end of it? Spiritual life. By the time we come to that, and something is blaring in some other region, so we say now we don't have time, we have to focus on that. Now we don't have time, we have to focus on that. And when I'm saying spirituality, I'm talking about true spirituality. Not this make-believe spirituality, which is that I will be stress-free, I will be productive, I will be better, I will be efficient. So that is more about the me, more about ego than God. Okay? So that is broadly the human condition. What you want to do. What do you want to do? In plan A, we've been told that the more we deepen in love for Him, in devotion to Him, in faith and gratitude to Him, we can come to a union with Him. And even if that seems too far-fetched, then we have been given this promise that we can live where He lives. We can live at His feet, whether we call that Vaikuntha or we call it heaven. And plan B is transmigration or a finality of death. Those are the alternatives. It's not about creating fear. It is about really looking. One thing I can tell you is that this body is almost 50 years old. Just in a few months. 50 years old. Half a century. Half a century. Does it seem like half a century? Not at all. Just went by like this. And the remaining 10, 20, 30, whatever by God's grace is remaining, will also go like that. So the call towards moving towards God, which Kabir ji is, unfortunately we heard it so much in school that we don't value it. But this is what he was talking about. काल करे सो आज करे सो अब पल में परले होगी बहुरी करेगा कब. Death is coming. He said, काल आवेगा. Death is coming. Any moment. Don't waste this opportunity. What is required of us? It is very difficult. But in this moment you can do it. In this moment you can do it. It is very natural in this moment. When looked at in the span of a life, then it seems difficult because of Maya. All you have to do is say, this moment is yours. This moment is yours. I am yours in this moment. मैं आपका हूँ. Is that difficult? Start by not even meaning it. Don't even mean it. Just say it. Then the meaning it will happen. Just keep your head bowed down. Whatever. As much as you can. That's all. What is difficult? So in the moment it is not difficult. But when you think about doing it later, then it is difficult. So don't do it later, do it now. Swami Ramsukdas ji is one of the most amazing sages. One of the most amazing that I've ever heard. His articulation is really bad, but his insight, in articulation I mean that he was just so old when he was sharing that the words seem like even more mumbly than this one. You see, so, but what he's saying is tremendous, because in one satsang he can straddle both bhakti and jnana so beautifully that it's beyond, you know it is coming from the Atma itself. So he said at the end of all of it, what is the highest thing that I have learned? Just say to God, God, I am yours. Bhagwan, मैं आपका हूँ. मैं आपका हूँ, मैं आपका हूँ, मैं आपका हूँ. I am yours, I am yours, I am yours. Here's one who has written translations of the Gita and all the scriptures, and he had such mastery over all of them. He said at the end of all of it, God, I am yours. God has not made it difficult for us to be with Him. Our pride makes it difficult. Our desire makes it difficult. So please, my children, my brothers and sisters, my elders, I beg of you with folded hands, don't do a spirituality which is godless. Don't fall into that trap. You're only going to make it difficult for yourself. Don't make your life into something which is godless. Keep your eyes on Him. Everything is taken care of. Turn away from Him, then you face this jungle, and for a long time you will feel like you can win in this jungle, but you can't because death is coming. And you have to meet the Lord of Death. You tell him, I have $1 billion in the bank. What is he going to do with that? You say, I married the most beautiful partner. What is he going to do with that? I had everything that the world could give me. What is he going to do with that? What use is all of this wealth if you have not accumulated spiritual wealth? That bank account is empty for most of us in the world. What we will do with the other bank account? We'll go to our children and their children and their children and their children. So Jesus said something very strong about this. He said, then if you say, Lord, Lord, I will not recognize you. A strong thing for one who is just a pure embodiment of love to say, yeah, I will not recognize you. If you have not followed the will of my Father in this place. Same thing what Nanak Ji is saying. Hukum rajai chalna. And how will we follow the will of God if we have not met the Master? Then whose will we follow? It's like saying that you meet somebody, they say, I started a new job. So then you say, okay, what are they making you do? And they say, I don't know, I've never met my employer. If you don't meet God, or at least you don't turn away from God, towards God, then how will you know what His will is? To follow His will is to be in His presence. I have a bunch of mosquitoes hovering. So what am I going to do with this? What is it? It's a roll on. Where do I roll this? My head? Fabric roll on. This is also fabric. जाने वाली है. This is the first time hearing of this. Everyone, all of you know about this? Yes. See, I told you I'm mad. That is like the Rodomos thing which you put. Fabric roll on. Too cold. Hey, how did this start working?
This was a man came and he said that he said there's a board that was on the thing which had counted from
This thing may be very good in Thiru. Yeah, this fabric roll-on thing. Maybe you should get some and go. I am sure you get them there also. It should be good. I should put on here.
Did you mention this because you're going?
No, because Ambati is going tomorrow. And Thiru, in most of the year, there's a lot of mosquitoes. They love everyone. How real is God for me? Is he a living God? Does he hear me? Does he know me? Is he here with me right now? How real is he for you? It is this feeling of unreality of the living one that makes us suffer. We suffer because we feel alone, we feel distant from him, separated from him. So we feel scared. We are afraid of loneliness. We are afraid of not being taken care of. Afraid of everything. No? Because we've forgotten that the Lord of a trillion universes is with me. The owner of all time and all space is with us every moment. We forgot. No? And thank God we suffer. Otherwise we could just remain in this forgetfulness forever. It's 99-1, no? 99% turn towards satsang because of suffering. It is the 1% that turn because of a true thirst for knowledge or a true longing for God. It is that suffering that makes us open enough for this most absurd sounding thing in the world. Because according to the world, it's all upside down. What is the world's version of spirituality? Okay, let's see. What is the India's most popular version of spirituality? Huh? India's most popular version?
To become enlightened, you can do everything perfectly.
That's very, I mean, that's because we move in these circles and that seems popular. The one most popular version of spirituality in India is keep doing your work and then die. It's okay.
No.
Because even God has told us, Krishna ji has told us, Karmanyavadikaraste Mahaphaleshu Takachana. One verse that everybody feels like that is the whole Gita. Because that everybody loves. No? Just keep doing your work and just don't worry about the outcome. Die, finish. That's it. Isn't it? So when people come and meet me and they're not spiritual, and I say, are you surrendering your life to God? They say, but even God said you keep doing your work. But I'm not saying don't do your work. But what about God? And can you actually ever be free from worry about the outcome unless you have surrendered yourself to God? Nobody can. Huh? Can you actually be free from worry about the fruits of your actions unless you've surrendered your life to God? Can't do it. It's all just lip service spirituality. सिर्फ बोलने की बात है. And everywhere in the world, including India and possibly also in the West, it has become about a spirituality which is self-serving and not self-sacrificing. No risk, nothing at stake. My head is not at his feet. It's just, what can I get out of this? If I pray to God, what will I get? I was promised peace. Where is it? Like that. So it's become a self-serving spirituality. It has become this business of spirituality. With a few rare exceptions. Where are the crazy in love with God ones? You have to be those. It's probably too late for this one, but you can. If not you, then who? Huh? They have. If not now, then when? Who? And what better plan do you have? So I just need a few who will say, I am ready to risk my life on this, on the true existence of God, on the true reality that He is here in my heart. I am willing to bet my whole life on this. हाँ अनु, तुम मुझे खून दो. To risk it. Yes? I don't see many nodding. Yes? Are we in this? It's okay. Half-hearted is also fine. It's scary, I can understand. And that's why I'm asking you to contemplate what is plan B. Yeah? What are you really having to give up? And you have 7 billion almost examples in the world. Whose life would you rather emulate? Just leave all that. Nothing in all that. Make your relationship with God the most important relationship for you. What would that look like? Can it be the most important relationship if you don't meet Him every day? If you don't make Him the center of your life, at least for a large part of your day? And whatever the mind is telling you that this is the cost of doing this is just not true. There is no cost except, if you consider pride, to let go of your pride some cost, then yes. Yeah? If we had treated any relationship like we've treated our relationship with God, that relationship would have left us. Yes or no? Isn't it? But God is the most faithful, He has not left us. Let's do one thing. Tomorrow, instead of taking our grievances and problems to God, let's ask God whether He has some grievances with us. Huh? Let's just listen to Him instead of telling Him, I have this problem, fix this for me, I want this, where are you, you're not helping me. Instead of any of that, just say, I'm here for you, please, I want to listen to what you have to say. Huh? Yes? Shall we do experiment?